Hey y'all, this is Cindy. I'm the Tireless Tangler, and you've arrived at lesson 14 of our Tangled Ribbon Flower series. Thank you so much for being with me today. I so appreciate your companionship for this project. And our tangle that we're going to use on our ribbon flower today is going to be Danzer. It is by a tangler called Prairie Kitten, and it is a cool ribbon tangle. And let me show you how it's going to go. So I have drawn two of these in, and never forgetting that crucial inner aura that I struggle with so often. And we are going to put Danzer in. It's very, very simple, but I wanted an extra spot so that I could show some variations. And I think what I'm going to do is show you sort of the standard version first, and then we'll move on from there. I think I drew these backwards as far as order of importance for tangling, as far as the explanation goes, but it's not hard and you're going to catch it on, or you're going to catch on quick. So you start by putting sort of a zigzagged line so that you come through with triangular shapes that are next to each other, and they'll point up and they'll point down. Now here, the next step, we're going to put in, we're going to cap off each one of these little triangles with a sort of an aura line or an echo line. Thusly. And I think I forgot one down here on the bottom. There we go. So in the step out, the next step is that she puts an orb in the center of each one of these little arid lines. And I'm going to go ahead and ink these. I'm using my brown pen today so that the inking won't take quite so long. It's got a little bit larger nib, and so the ink flows a little bit easier from that. I have gotten a bit spoiled. I did a class today with Annie Oaken, and it was really cute. It's about zoomorphy or something like that. Anyway, we got to draw cute little fishies and such, and so it was a lot of fun. But I was using my 01 for that, and I realized that on this channel I have become really spoiled to the ease with which I can draw with this. With that said, when you're doing fine work like we were today, then the 01 is definitely a better choice for that. I tend to get a little sloppy with my pen, but it does get the job done a little bit quicker. So it's about patience, and I don't think that my patience is where it needs to be these days. Mari has been trying to find out how much patience I actually have. The answer is not as much as I thought. All right, so now on this favorite variation that she has here, and the inking on the bottom does not have to happen. That is by your choice, of course. But this next part is to put a series of sort of a wavy line, and we're going to change direction for each one of these little cone shapes. Okay, and this is going to enhance the quality of 3D. All right, now I'm going to aura these lines. And I'm going to try to do a neat job here. It's always entertaining to find out what happens with that. And so you see, this line looks like, well, it's cool, right? And I think I remember in Linda Farmer's article on tanglepatterns.com her mentioning that she thought this looked like a line of dancers, so hence the name Danzer. And I really, really like this one because it has the 3D qualities, especially if you shade it that way. And of course, I can't help myself. Anytime I spend any time with any Oaken learning anything, then the shading becomes essential to me. And yeah, you learn so much. There's so much to learn in any one of her lessons that, just pick one that looks cool and go for it. Or you can wait for this zoomorphy thing. We basically got to draw little fishies and draw sort of a Celtic knot, freeform knot ribbon thing around it. If I'm in the mood here in a minute, I'll show you my half-finished tile. Maybe not. I don't like to do that because it's definitely in its ugly stage. So on this version, on this side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this sort of pure. I'm going to put in the pure form of the tangle itself, as a lot of what I did on this last row was embellishing. Now, essentially, I stuck with the pattern, and this embellishment is on the step out. But I wanted to point out that you can also go minimalist on this if that's what you like. And so here is my center orb. Hopefully I'll slow down and do a careful job with this. Thank you guys for understanding about the last couple of days. I just needed some extra time, and that may happen again. We are prepping the kid for football season and for school, and depending on how all of that goes, we'll see how we suss out. All right, so this is sort of the pure version of this without any embellishing or inking or anything. And so let's look at some shading here. All right, so I'm using my Staedtler Mars Lumograph pencil. It is an F grade pencil, which means it has a harder surface. It's a harder pencil, but it still has a decent amount of graphite. You're still able to shade fairly darkly with it. So this is a recommendation of my teacher, Annie Oaken, that we have been talking about. And it was surprising to me how many CZTs were in that group today. So she's the one that we all go for too for learning to do some of these things. And she certainly does make a significant difference in your art in a fairly short amount of time. So when you're shading these, what you're going to want to do is focus on one side. And of course, you're going to want to do the same side all the way across. And it can feel a little bit awkward since the direction of this changes. But what you're going to do is shade along that line fairly darkly, and then taper off the pressure as you come up on the side. And of course, shading or the tortillon will help blend that out a lot. And as we do this, you're going to start to see these sort of pop up and become really dynamic. And it's amazing to me the difference just a tiny bit of shading makes on this. And of course, you can make that as dark or as light as you want. But now let's look at what it's going to look like if we apply that type of shading to this sort of pure form that we've got here. And let's see how it is without any embellishing. So there are a couple of things you can do. One thing would be to shade where I inked beside the little balls. I'm going to start here with choosing the one side thing, or no. I wanted to see here whether or not I could sort of shade on both sides and sort of still have my sort of conical feeling to this. And I don't think it worked out very well. So I think at this point, then I'm just going to stick with the one side. I was sort of trying some things out. That's the way it goes. Now here I am trying graphite back there behind the little orb. I'm going to try to sort of 3D that, but that doesn't work with the penciled in background. We need more of a color difference there to get any sort of rounding there, sort of like that. I think that's more effective than having the graphite. And if you ink in here, you can still use this technique to round up your orbs. It's just the similarity in color of the graphite to the graphite in the background was not working enough to sort of pop that forward. And I don't think you can really tell here very well how this looks because of the graying out effect that the light has. But this works out pretty well. So on this one, what I have started to do is I'm shading in sort of a V shape along the edge of these. I'm shading very darkly along the line, and then I'm spreading out into the center sort of in a V shape, if that makes any sense. I'm not sure you can tell from what you're looking at. Having a little trouble with that corner or that edge there. Frustrating. But as you can see, if you do it this way and then you blend it out, you've got something pretty dynamic, assuming that you don't overwhelm yourself. I may take a bit of that out. We'll see. But as I play with this, I really feel like the shading along the one side is the best choice for this. And then as far as the orb goes, there are lots of different things you could do with that. And I'm considering checking out how it would be if we sort of added more in there, like the Tangle Pattern Perk, P-U-R-K. And step outs for most of the patterns that I mention here are found on tanglepatterns.com. All right, so here are two versions of this. Let's get it in our flower petal. So on the petal, assuming that you have already drawn your outer line and your essential inner aura, I was reminded again in Annie's lesson today how important that aura is. And also reminded again, very, very realistically, that I have a lot of issues with auraing. Yeah, but all art has an ugly stage, and you keep going and you see what happens. Okay, so now I'm going to flip along and see what I can do in this back area where it looks like this ribbon has turned inside out, or has curled around rather. So I'm just going to sort of phone it in here, start however I want to. And now I've got to be careful, so here's my point. I think I got a little too creative there, but it's in the back, so hopefully nobody will notice. There we go. That's better. Excuse me. Thanks to those of you who noticed my nails the other day. I appreciate that. I actually had them done professionally for those that were asking where or how or what color. And this is that dip powder that you use with your own nails to strengthen them. And so it's not something, I don't have any idea. You have to go into a salon to get this. They use that gel base, and it's sort of like solar nails, but not exactly the same. Anyway, so that's what it is. And thanks for noticing. I just cringe most of the time when I look at these because my nails and cuticles are just awful. And so I went ahead and took care of me last Saturday, and um, yeah, there we go. Hopefully it'll be another week or so before they start looking bad, and we'll see. Then we may go right back to the way it was. Okay. I really like this pattern. It's so much fun to draw. And it's quite forgiving. Okay, so now I'm going to add my orbs, and right now I think I'm going to see if I can, what this is going to look like if I perk them. I can still come back in and ink them if I decide to. So I'm just going to draw these little orbs in and then ink in the little spots around there. Hopefully this is a better example of that. So I like the way this looks. I'm afraid, I don't know. I think if I were using it elsewhere, it might be okay with me, but back in the background like it's supposed to be, I'm struggling with that. I don't know. I went off on a tangent here. Let me figure this out. Okay. Now let's get back on point. And we just got a couple more. I am going to speed up parts of this for you. I think you don't need to see me ink this whole entire thing in real time. I try to keep that to a minimum, but there's only so much I can say while I'm inking, so. And I'm not sure we want to go that far, do we? Do we really? So I'm excited to see Mari play football. I'm not excited to worry about him getting hurt, but we'll see what he thinks. You know, I'm going to support his dreams as much as I possibly can within reason, and let him do what he wants to do. Try it out. That's what I say. All right. Just an expensive sport. Whew. The helmets are crazy expensive. A couple $100 for a helmet. Okay, so I'm trying to decide if this is too much and if I want to continue this on the front side. And I think I'm going to go ahead and ink these. I'm not sure. Let me think. Because we're going to need some really good shading to sort of make that curl, the tangling in that curl, a little less prominent. I think that's what I'm concerned about, is that it's going to be so prominent that we won't be able to make the turn. So let's see what happens. I think I am going to ink these. Okay, so But you see what I mean about how prominent that makes the orbs on the curl, and what a difference that makes in the eye's ability to understand what's going on there, or what we want the eye to see. And again, I can ink these, but I really like the way it looks, and I think if I didn't have a curl here, I might go ahead with that. I just don't know. Mm, uh, okay, let's just put our embellishing line in here. And remember, you're going to curve these so that they meet up, but curve in opposite directions with each one, okay? And as you go, try really hard to focus on not allowing this line to get too far up, such as that, or too far down, depending on your perspective. And I'm realizing now that I'm going to have to be really careful with the arid line and make sure I've got that coming in from the right direction so that I don't mess things up as I go. Now, look at how flat this looks right now. Um, Even with the wavy lines, it is just not that exciting. Although, you know, we're gonna perk it up here. Okay. Now, the time has come to decide. I'm gonna ink it. I'm gonna ink these. That way, I still have drama going on there. I still have interest in these sort of bell areas at the bottoms. I can't help but think bell when I see these, so that's my take on this. Okay, so I am going to speed up the inking part of this, and I'm going to see you guys here in just a minute. All right, so now that that's done, I've decided that I'm going to use color in here in this way. I'm just going to use it in this stripe that goes across, and I'm going to try to put a sort of a sparkle-ish highlight in there. That is something that I can enhance with a white Prismacolor later as we go. And I am using my magenta Prismacolor Verithin. And I think that just blends really well with the background. And again, I'm just using the background to sort of dictate where I go color-wise. And this is not going to stop me from being able to shade at all, because as we saw, the shading is an essential part of this, making this pattern really fun. And you know, it's really fun to see something that is so simple to draw become something so fun and dynamic. I just love this pattern. I think you guys are going to really like it. So I'm going to switch to my true green in the Prismacolor Verithin. That's a very neutral green color. It's not really yellowy and it's not really bluey. It's just sort of, you know, true green. We'll hope Simba stays settled down right now. He is really getting head up about what's going on outside. I have no idea what that is. But I'm sure it involves people walking on our yard. Those silly people. Now, even though when we come to shading, we're just going to do one side, still on these, we're going to, of course, use these all the way across with just that highlighted area in the middle. I've switched here to my blue, my peacock blue, also a Verithin. And now that I've done this much, then I'm going to go in along these lines and deepen the color there. And we're going to begin the shading process here like this. And as I have on the other petals, I'm going to use my blue violet pencil to start, and then I will use my black Verithin to complete the shading on this. And this is the blue violet. And you can see how much nicer it is to use this dark blue rather than a black pencil for the shading part, or for at least for this part. So I'm now going to start shading to one side. And as I go, I'm going to again shade darkly along the line, and then I'm going to sort of feather up, lightening my pressure as I go. This is something that you have to practice, and that sometimes I do better with and sometimes I do not. All things are practice, guys. All of this is practice. And good instruction, so. Oh, I love you guys. You guys are awesome. Did you hit a home run? Mari is playing a game online with his friends, so you may hear his voice in the background, but he's not talking to us. Well, actually, not yet. Of course, now he's talking to us. All right, and still I am just doing one side. And as I come to the bottom, I'm feathering that up. Here we go. All right, so look at that. That's already a huge, huge difference. I'm also going to add a little bit extra color up there on the tip to sort of enhance that idea of this is folding down. I don't know that I have a reason for it necessarily. There may be a good reason for it. I don't know. I was just feeling it that way. A lot of times these are things that I've seen Annie Oken do, and so I tend to remember a lot of those things, but I don't always remember the setting for when I learned them. So we'll just see. I always credit Annie with anything good I do, and always blame myself for anything bad. So that works out. All right, here we go. Now, let's see. Color-wise, this is not nearly as dynamic as the others, but we're not done yet. Now I've got to get this background or this back side of the curl shaded. I'm trying to decide. I think I'm going to put these curved lines in here too. I'm just not sure how many we're actually going to be able to see. And so right now I'm trying to figure out, do I change direction? I don't know. Yeah, that was wrong. Definitely wrong. Definitely wrong. So we're just going to do something fun and funky here and pretend like we meant to do that. Remember, make your mistakes big. Be bold. Not making mistakes means you never take risks and you never try anything difficult. She should definitely do that. I don't know what I'm doing here, but we'll see how it turns out. Now, Cindy, curl it the right way. Down, up, yeah. No, that's wrong. Oh, maybe it's right. I don't know. All right. What a mess. What a mess. Luckily, nobody's going to care once we get it shaded. So that works out. So I'm going to put just a little bit of color in here to sort of enhance the idea that this line is going on back there. And again, this color is magenta, and it's simply, my choice here was simply driven by the background. I'm not sure if this is going to be effective at all, but we're going to give it a try. Again, most of this will be covered by shading. Looks like there's a little eye peeking out down there. You're being watched. Okay, this is a blue violet again, and now I'm going to start adding shading, and we're going to have multiple layers of shading on this, and this can be a little bit of a challenge. You have to have some sort of a shading difference between each of these three layers. The top layer would be the ribbon coming across. The bottom layer would be this part that I'm shading now. And the middle would be this curl that comes up. But as you can see right now, it's very unclear what's what. And so we're going to make some strong differentiation here between pieces of, or the layers of this. And now you can see why I'm not all that concerned about making a mistake here. Not that I would make a mistake, but about having extra opportunities in this area, because we are going to darken this, and not just with the blue violet, but I'll be using, oh my goodness, what is going on here? Okay. So not only using my blue violet, but I'll also come back in here with the black Verithin and really give this all a dark color. I think Simba is shaking the bed. Sometimes his butt gets itchy and he likes to rub up against the bed. It's like being on a teeter-totter. And as always, I'm going back through and darkening the shading. Okay, I'm coming in here with my peacock blue, and I'm doing a little extra, just sort of putting a little 3D quality on the orbs back there. We'll see how that turns out. It's, of course, something I may erase. We'll see. Shading perk always gives me some problems because, I mean, I can orb the top one very easily with just a little color. That's not a big deal. But then the ones next to it should be shaded on the same side. However, if you do that, then you can't shade behind your central orb. So anyway, that's my issue with shading perk. So that's what I'm trying to do now, is figure out this mess. So I think I've decided to not worry about the color on the outside here and just go for the shading where the orbs overlap, and that will work just fine. Just putting some finishing touches down there, and I'll get to the orbs around here, I guess, apparently now. I'll get to those. And again, I'm just putting a little crescent moon shaped bit of color to sort of give the circle or orb there a more 3D effect. And I'm doing this regardless of the background color. I don't care. I'm just doing it uniformly. I chose the peacock blue because it was a little bit lighter shade than the violet blue or the blue violet, but it's also a sort of a grayish bluish sort of a mix. So I think it'll work really well for what I'm doing. Of course, I reserve the right to change it later, as you all have that right, of course. Okay, so I was going to use my graphite pencil, but I think I'm going to switch. No, I'm going to use my graphite pencil. I thought I was going to switch to my black Verithin, which I know I'm going to use in here at some point in the next 4 minutes. What I'm trying to do now is gauge how much shading we're going to need on each of these levels to make a difference, as far as can I tell which is which. And this is tricky. I'm not sure how successful I was. Of course, I'm not finished. I'm looking for my black Verithin. And I think that may be able to help us get the differentiation here that we're going to need shading wise to make this look right. Well, apparently, there it is. There's the black Verithin. So for the first part, I'm going to really darken this bottom part, or the part that looks like it's beneath this top ribbon. And then I'm going to do the same thing around this curl, deepening the shading in the well, sort of in this area where it dips. This has helped a bit, but I think later I'm going to come back in here and put even more shading here. I think the 3D effect of what's going on behind is going to be somewhat problematic. I mean, it's not going to be a big deal because at the end of the day, I can always come through here with a pencil and gray all of that underneath part out. Well, that's not so bad. Anyway, you guys see where I'm going with this, and this is it. This is where I'm going to stop today. Now, as a finishing touch, of course, I'm going to come back in with my white Prismacolor. I'm just going over the shading again here, but I am going to come back in with white Prismacolor and go over those highlighted spots where the ribbon is. And of course, I could use my white charcoal too. Most of the reason that I decide to use the white Prismacolor is that it will preserve itself longer. The charcoal can be wiped off or erased, and so that's a that's a double-sided sword, isn't it? Um, what in the one way it can help you, and the other way it can kill you. So I'm just really taking this dark in here. I really want these to pop up off the paper. I think they look pretty good. They look pretty poppy from here. But oh, what a difference the shading makes, huh? So when you want to skip the shading, I want you to remember this moment. It makes a difference. It makes such a big difference. All right, guys. A little bit of tortillon and smoothing, and we should be done for today. I'm not going to rub against the line much here. I just want to smooth out any harsh lines. I really want to leave that dark in there on the line. And I may come over that with the blue violet again. We'll see. So this one not as colorful, but still dynamic, certainly in its own way. And I'm just going to spruce up the color here and there. And yeah, this is fun. I really like it. And I'm really struggling with trying to decide what patterns to use on the last two. I'm thinking of using either poke leaf or poke root on one of them and going completely organic. And I never did really do my flux fill, which I sort of tried to not do this time, trying to change it up. So this is where I'm going to leave you guys today. Thank you so much for being with me, and I am going to see you in the next lesson.